Hello and a very warm welcome to World at War. I'm your host, Johan Castell. Is the fifth India-Pakistan war imminent? The horrific terrorist attack on tourists in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April, in which 26 innocent civilians were killed and more than a dozen were wounded, marked the deadliest terrorist attack against Indian civilians in nearly 2 decades. The calculated, brutal assault shattered the fragile sense of normalcy the embattled Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir had begun to exhibit, with tourists thronging to the picturesque valley in recent years. Since the dastardly Pahalgam attack, nuclear-armed neighbors and arch-rivals, India and Pakistan, have exchanged tit-for-tat diplomatic barbs and expulsions and shut border crossings. Speculation is rife that New Delhi might launch a military operation against its western neighbor, sooner rather than later. But will Indian response be similar to the surgical strikes of 2016, the Balakot strike of 2019, or will it be far more destructive? Are we witnessing the gathering storm of an impending fifth war between India and Pakistan? Our next report explores.
The calamitous afternoon of April 22nd, during which terrorists emerged from the dense pine forests into a picturesque meadow in Pahalgam, accessible only by foot or horseback, and selectively shot dead 25 male tourists and a local pony ride operator, has been etched forever on the minds of Indians who are left feeling aggrieved, bewildered, and enraged. The worst attack on civilians in Kashmir in a quarter century has triggered tit-for-tat steps by India and Pakistan, pushing the nuclear-armed neighbors to the brink of a military conflict. On May Day, Indian Home Minister Amit Shah issued a warning to those responsible for the dastardly attack and vowed to eradicate militancy from every inch of the country.
और अगर कोई एक कायराना हमला कर ये समझता है कि हमारी बड़ी जीत है, तो एक बात मन से समझ लीजिए, ये नरेंद्र मोदी सरकार है, किसी को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा, किसी को बख्शा नहीं जाएगा। इस देश की इंच इंच भूमि पर से आतंकवाद को मूल समेत उखाड़ने का हमारा संकल्प है और वो सिद्ध होकर रहे।
Earlier in the week, the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in his meeting with India's top defense officials, gave the armed forces a free hand to decide on the timing, targets and mode in their response to the Pahalgam attack. As tensions between India and Pakistan reached fever pitch, Pakistan's Army Chief General Asim Munir oversaw military training exercises at the Tilla Field Firing Range in Jhelum on 1st of May. A couple of days later, in what was deemed a reckless act of provocation by New Delhi, Pakistan's military conducted a training launch of the Abdali weapon system, a surface-to-surface ballistic missile with a range of 450 kilometers. A day earlier, the Indian Air Force had conducted a drill on the Ganga Expressway in Shahjahanpur district of Uttar Pradesh. The expressway facilitates both day and night landings of fighter jets, which includes Rafale, Jaguar, Mirage 2000, Sukhoi 30, MiG-29 and a C-130J Super Hercules military transport plane. While India rightfully blames Pakistan for the Pahalgam terror attack, Pakistan has struck to an oft-repeated mode of denial. On Friday, the Pakistan's ambassador to the United Nations, Asim Iftikhar Ahmad, asserted that his country will be obliged to respond if India were to take any military action.
If there is any action of such kind, any aggression, then it will unleash a new momentum in which Pakistan will be obliged to respond.
India, on its part, has continued to tighten the screws. Not only have Indian ships been ordered not to visit any Pakistani port, but any ships bearing Pakistani flag have been banned from visiting any Indian port. On the line of control, Pakistan has continued to provoke India by indulging in small arms firing, to which valiant Indian forces have responded in an appropriate manner. But the villagers living in Kashmir along the line of control with Pakistan have been caught in the line of fire.
बचने की कोई हालत नहीं है।
If war happens, there is no way we can escape. Where will we run? There are wires on both the Indian and Pakistani sides, and we are stuck in the middle.
Experts are of the opinion that the Indian response to the Pahalgam terror attack will be guided by both precedent as well as pressure. The big question is, will it lead to a broader regional conflict?
Pakistan regards the Kashmir Valley to be the unfinished business of India's partition. From the time that it came into existence, Pakistan has tried to take over Kashmir either through a direct military confrontation or by using proxies so that it can pretend some face-saving deniability. Starting from October 1947, just 2 months since India's independence and just 2 months after Pakistan came into existence after the partition, Pakistan began the war for Kashmir. And since then, India and Pakistan have fought 3 wars over Kashmir, and all 3 times Pakistan has been defeated. A country's military might is determined by its economic muscle, and at this moment, India's financial health appears way better than that of Pakistan. Pakistan's economy is less than 1/10 of India's economy, and as of this month, Pakistan has $10.7 billion of forex reserves. For nearly 5 long years, Pakistan was on the grey list of the Financial Task Force for terror funding, which made it hard for Pakistan to access loans. Pakistan's debt to GDP ratio is hovering around 70%. As of 2023, Pakistan was spending nearly 40% of all government revenues for interest payments. What pulled Pakistan from the brink of a sovereign default was a $3 billion IMF bailout. With this being Pakistan's financial condition, why does it look intent on another war with India? And how has Pakistan fared in the wars that it has earlier fought with India? Our next report gets you the details.
The first war for Kashmir began in October 1947. What could have been acquired by negotiations, Pakistan tried to wrest it using force. Tribal Islamic forces, helped by Pakistan's army, attacked the princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. Initially, the tribal militia backed by the Pakistani army captured parts of the Jammu and Kashmir territory. Raja Hari Singh Dogra, who was dreaming of keeping Jammu and Kashmir independent as the Switzerland of South Asia, was forced to sign the instrument of accession to join India. This allowed him to get military help from India. The UN Security Council passed Resolution 47 on 22nd April 1948. Fighting slowed down and the line of control was formed. A formal ceasefire was declared at midnight on 1st January 1949, and Pakistan was forced to withdraw, licking its wounds. The second war between India and Pakistan started when Islamabad launched Operation Gibraltar. This operation aimed to send forces into Jammu and Kashmir to spark an insurgency. India responded with a full-scale military counterattack on West Pakistan. The war lasted 17 days and caused thousands of casualties on both sides. It saw the largest use of armored vehicles and the biggest tank battle since the Second World War. The fighting ended after diplomatic efforts by the Soviet Union and the United States of America. Both countries agreed to a ceasefire through the Tashkent Declaration, and India had again defeated Pakistan in an all-out war. The third India-Pakistan war was different because it was not about Kashmir. It started due to a political crisis as Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had emerged victorious in the elections. But Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was not willing to cede ground. This sparked a civil war which resulted in almost 10 million Bangladeshis fleeing into the Indian territory to escape the violence. India was forced to intervene. For this, Pakistan attacked at several points along India's western border. However, the Indian army successfully defended its positions. India quickly counterattacked and made early gains. India captured about 15,000 square kilometers of Pakistani territory. This included territory in Pakistani Kashmir, Punjab and Sindh. Over 90,000 Pakistani troops laid down their arms and surrendered to India. But in a generous offer, India later returned the captured territory and the surrendered soldiers to Pakistan after the Shimla Agreement in 1972. The Kargil War was a limited conflict. In early 1999, Pakistani troops again crossed the line of control. They occupied parts of the Indian territory in the Kargil district. Alerted by the Bakarwal shepherds about the Pakistani infiltration, India launched a major counter-offensive. Within 2 months, the Indian forces recaptured most of the occupied ridges. The Pakistani forces' morale dropped after their withdrawal. Many Northern Light Infantry units suffered heavy losses. The Pakistani government, although, refused to accept the bodies of many officers. Now, this caused outrage and protests in the northern areas. At first, Pakistan did not admit to the number of casualties. Later, Nawaz Sharif said over 4,000 Pakistani soldiers had died. The war was a major defeat for the Pakistani army.
More than 100 people were killed in 2 days of sectarian violence on the outskirts of the Syrian capital Damascus, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based monitoring group. Reportedly, the clashes, which involved local armed men from the Druze religious minority and pro-government gunmen, were triggered by a voice recording cursing the Prophet Muhammad, and which the Sunni Muslims suspected was made by a Druze cleric. Though the Druze cleric to whom the audio clip was attributed denied any responsibility, and a preliminary inquiry by the Interior Ministry also cleared him, the recording, widely circulated, provoked the fury of many Sunni Muslims. On Wednesday, the Israeli military struck the outskirts of Damascus after Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz had warned that a serious message had been conveyed to the Syrian government to act to prevent harm to the Druze community. And early on Friday, in its clearest signal yet of hostility towards the Islamist-led Syrian government, the Israeli military bombed an area close to the presidential palace. Our next report explores.
The sectarian violence in Ashrafiyat Sanaya, a town on the southern outskirts of Damascus, the predominantly Druze suburb of Jaramana, and in the southern Druze majority province of Suweda, poses one of the most serious challenges yet to the government of Ahmad al-Shara, Syria's transitional president. Soon after, Ahmad al-Shara's Sunni Islamist group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, led a rebel offensive that ousted Bashar al-Assad's regime last December. After 13 years of devastating civil war, he had promised to protect the country's many religious and ethnic minorities. But the sectarian violence, which erupted on Monday night and continued for 2 days, resulting in the death of more than 100 people, has put serious question marks on that very promise. Minority communities were already gripped by fear following the mass killings in March of more than 1,700 civilians, mostly from Assad's minority Alawite sect in the western coastal region, in clashes between the new security forces and Assad loyalists. On Thursday, condemning the sectarian violence near Damascus as an unjustifiable genocidal campaign, the Syrian Druze spiritual leader, Sheikh Hikmat al-Hijri, called for an immediate intervention by international forces to maintain peace. Israel, which has previously called Syria's transitional government a terror group from Idlib that took Damascus by force, has accused the Syrian authorities of failing to protect the country's Druze minority from sectarian violence, and has attacked allegedly hundreds of Syrian military sites since Assad's ouster. Early on Friday, Israeli fighter jets struck an area about 100 meters east of the presidential palace's perimeter. In a joint statement, both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz said, that the strike intended to send a clear message to the Syrian regime that Israel would not allow the deployment of forces south of Damascus or any threat to the Druze community. A couple of days earlier, Israel had launched a warning strike near Damascus that killed one member of Syria's security forces. But the question is Tel Aviv, in the name of Syria's Druze minority, intending to keep Syria decentralized and isolated? Following the bombing by Israeli fighter jets near the presidential palace, people in Damascus, while lamenting the fact that there is a war-ravaged country on the long road to recovery, called on Arab countries for help.
Now, because we don't have a proper system like aviation or missiles, because America, Israel have hit everything, we don't have anything. I mean, because when the new state government took over, it needs a period of time to act freely, as it should. Let's see the sisterly Arab countries, they might help us in the economy, in everything. Maybe little by little our country will grow stronger and will adjust properly. Let's see then if Israel dares to send out a plane or whatever, if it dares to. But now we don't have anything, neither anti-aircraft missiles nor anything. Our state is new, I mean.
Accusing the outlaw groups of instigating the sectarian clashes, the Syrian government has deployed forces in the flashpoint Damascus suburb of Jaramana in a bid to ensure security. Reportedly, a deal has been struck with the local Druze leaders to hand over heavy weapons under a truce agreement.
An agreement has been reached with the residents of Jaramana to hand over heavy weapons to the state and for everyone to submit to the state and the judiciary. We are now preparing general security convoys to take over the checkpoints and form a security cordon around Jaramana to protect it and its people.
We support handing over weapons at the right time. When everyone feels that things are stable and the state can ensure their safety and security, they will no longer feel the need to hold on to weapons. The state is responsible for our safety, and in Jaramana, we will be the first to contribute to handing over arms.
The Druze minority are a 10th century offshoot of a branch of Shia Islam with its own unique identity and beliefs. Half of its roughly 1 million followers live in Syria, where they make up about 3% of the population. Smaller communities reside in Lebanon, Israel, and the occupied Golan Heights. The Syrian minority community, however, agrees that it is an inseparable part of the unified Syrian homeland. The onus now is on the ruling Sunni Islamists to ensure inclusive role for minorities in the multi-ethnic, multi-confessional nation barely emerging from the devastation of a 13-year-long civil war.
According to the United Nations, in barely 3 weeks, more than 540 people have been killed in Sudan's North Darfur as battle rages for the regional capital of El Fasher between the Sudanese armed forces and the powerful paramilitary rapid support forces. What's worse, it is feared that the death toll of 542 over the last 3 weeks could be much higher. The paramilitary rapid support forces has claimed to have seized control of the strategic city of Al-Nuhud in West Kordofan. Al-Nuhud, held by Sudanese army since the beginning of the conflict in April 2023, is a gateway to the Darfur region. In addition to this, Sudan's presidential palace in central Khartoum was shelled by the rapid support forces on Thursday. The second such attack on the capital in a week. Our next report brings you the details.
The Republic of Sudan, Africa's third largest country by size, has been torn apart by a power struggle since April 2023. Between the Sudanese army chief and the country's de facto leader Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the paramilitary rapid support forces commander Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo. The Sudan war, now in its third year, has killed tens of thousands, uprooted 13 million from their homes, and precipitated what the United Nations describes as the world's largest humanitarian crisis. The country has effectively been divided in two, with the Sudanese army holding sway at the center, east and north, whereas the paramilitary rapid support forces are in control of nearly all of Darfur and parts of the south. In the month of March, in a major military offensive, the Sudanese army regained control of the presidential palace, the airport and other strategic areas in the capital, Khartoum. In retaliation, the Rapid Support Forces has mounted multiple attacks on El Fasher, the Sudanese army's last remaining foothold in the Darfur region, and the nearby refugee camps of Samzan and Abu Shouk. The unrelenting attacks by the Rapid Support Forces has triggered an exodus of hundreds of thousands of people 60 kilometers across the desert to the town of Tawila. Given the upcoming rainy season and a shortfall in funding, the World Food Programme has issued a warning that the recent progress in turning the tide of famine is under threat.
The rainy season is just around the corner, and we're in a race against time to pre-position food in areas that will be cut off when the rains come. During the rains last year, we saw a major surge in hunger and in disease outbreaks. At the moment, we're reaching 4 million people, but we need to scale that up to reach at least 7 million people in the coming months. In order to do that, we need more funding. Otherwise, we'll be cutting support at the very time when we need to be scaling up.
In the River Nile state as well, on the 25th of April, at least 11 people were killed in drone strikes by the Rapid Support Forces on a displacement camp. Survivors who fled the area in a bid to escape narrated scenes of chaos, mayhem and loss of their family members.
All 4 of them, my son, my cousin, my daughter's husband, and 2 children, my cousin's children. The boy is 10 years old, and the girl is about 2 years old. I picked her up and put her next to the boy. All 4 of them are dead.
Today, around 3 or 3:30 p.m., the drones came. The first drone strike came and landed right behind us. A quarter of an hour later, another one came. About 4 drone strikes. We decided to leave because the scene was very difficult. There were corpses, people who had been dismembered, and people in the hospital.
The Rapid Support Forces, while denying carrying out the drone attacks, has targeted power stations in army-controlled locations in central and northern Sudan for the past several months. Consequently, the country's electrical grid has been hampered, plunging millions into weeks-long blackouts. With the ground fighting now focused in the Darfur region, the Rapid Support Forces is launching the long-range artillery from their holdout position in Al-Salah, located south of Khartoum's twin city of Omdurman. On 26th of April, the Rapid Support Forces had targeted the Sudanese Army General Command headquarters in central Khartoum, and within a week, on Thursday, in a second such attack on the capital, the Sudan's presidential palace was shelled. As the Game of Thrones between the warring generals continues, despite continuous mediation efforts, Sudan resembles a powder keg on the verge of a further explosion into chaos and mayhem.
That's all we could pack into this edition of World at War. Until next time, stay safe.